What is up, guys? Blue Sun Jrpgs here, bringing you my latest video. This time I'm going to be talking about, are Jrpgs better than Western RPGs? Obviously I have Jrpgs in my name, but I've been playing both genres for years and I love both. But I really want to talk about what are the differences between the two and which is better if one is better. So first, for me, in my opinion, from what I've seen on the internet, from what other people have told me, and what I personally believe, the main difference between a JRPG and a Western RPG are that a JRPG gives us a character, gives us a world, and tells us a story of that character in that world. Versus a Western RPG will give us a world and maybe a little backstory of a character, but then we get to go out in the world and we get to create our own world, our own story for that character. Example is like Skyrim. You get basically anything you want. You start off basically in Skyrim, but other than that, the whole world is your option. Two very, very different styles, but I think that's a good way to define Japanese role-playing game versus Western role-playing game, just simply put. So the first and most important part of an RPG, in my opinion again, is the story. I have to give a massive advantage for JRPGs in this department. Most of the great stories I've experienced in my life, whether it be movies, books, TV shows, video games, have come from JRPGs. Just for me, I mean, I know a lot of people love movies and books, but for me, I'm putting 100 hours into some of these games. I get so attached to these characters. I get so attached to their backstories, and I really, really enjoy the stories that they provided me in JRPGs like Final Fantasy VII, like Chrono Cross, like I don't even know, even a game like Valkyria Chronicles. There's so many games I've experienced, Ni no Kuni, where the stories really just dragged me in, and that's something I don't get from Western RPGs. Only because, like I said, when you play Skyrim, you can be an orc, you can be a Nord, an Imperial, Redguard, whatever. That's great, but you don't get the same attachment. The person almost doesn't feel as realistic to me, or as real to me. Just to me. Some other people have different opinions. But either way, Western RPGs do a fantastic job at replayability. I have played Skyrim maybe a million, maybe a million's an exaggeration, but I've played Skyrim a shit ton of times, and I think I've played every single time as something different. So Western RPGs have so much more replayability. But honestly, I think I've only beaten Skyrim 1 or 2 times, because ultimately to me, the story isn't that important. I like going through the world, experiencing the day-to-day life as an orc, interacting with the stronghold, or as a dark elf, Dunmer, interacting with the other Dunmer in Windhelm. So I like that part of Western RPGs. I like the daily life. That really is role-playing in its essence, in my opinion. It's almost more true role-playing to me than what a JRPG presents. JRPG is like a story. Western RPG, you're actually role-playing, you're taking the role of another person and living vicariously through them in that world. So I definitely enjoy both in that aspect, but there are different differences, and as far as story goes, I have to give the edge to JRPGs. Graphics, it's so hard to say because graphics are so different on every game. I mean, you look at a game like Final Fantasy 15 versus a game I reviewed, Toho Genso Wanderer. They're just completely different graphic styles, completely different, and to compare them is ridiculous. But in general, I would say that the Western RPGs definitely go for a more realistic look. In general, game like Fallout, Skyrim, any of those games, The Witcher 3, they all definitely look more realistic than most JRPGs. It's not a knock against JRPGs, because there are some beautiful looking JRPGs, Persona 5, like I've talked about, Final Fantasy. But in general, I would give the edge as far as graphics go to Western RPGs. They're just a different style, and I do usually prefer their style. Although I do love my anime style JRPG every now and then. I definitely do enjoy that as well, but I do like the Westerns a little bit better. And really the last thing I want to talk about is the combat. The combat is almost becoming one nowadays. There used to be a difference between the turn-based versus the action, or strategy. But now it's pretty much all action. I mean, as far as the major games go, obviously Persona 5 did a tremendous job with the turn-based combat. But overall, I actually would give the edge. To the Western RPGs. I do think they do a little bit better job with the combat. It definitely stays a little bit more enjoyable throughout the whole system. However, I will say that a game done well and turn-based is actually better than the best real-time combat game. Persona 5 is an absolutely great example of that. The combat in Persona 5 is unbelievable. Never get bored with this game. Never. The combat it's so enjoyable. Like I said, games like Skyrim, games like Fallout are fun like that as well. But I think that this combat is done so smoothly. I think it's the best combat I've played. But in general, I would say the Western RPG combat is better. So wrapping this video up, I'm gonna say that both genres are equal. Big shocker there. I would say that the best games, Fallouts, Skyrims, Persona 5s, Final Fantasies, Chrono Crosses, when they're done well, they are untouchable. They're unbeatable by any other genre. So I'll give props to both.